If there's an epicenter for the coronavirus in Venezuela, it may be here in Zulia. Nearly 15% of the country's recorded cases have been registered in this one state bordering Colombia. And it is in its capital, Maracaibo, behind the doors of these motels, that those who have returned to the country and are seen as at risk of carrying the virus are forced into quarantine for 14 days. For Nelson, whose house backs onto a motel, that is a concern. He said he and his neighbours are worried that potentially sick people in quarantine escape into his back garden. Irrational or not, there is fear here. Margarita says that as long as there's water in the house, she washes her hands fastidiously. She says she knows people who have contracted the virus. She's scared, she says, but trying not to be paranoid. Last week, President Maduro described the virus in Zulia as especially aggressive. It had killed 8 compatriots there, he told the nation. The government says more than 70% of Venezuela's coronavirus cases are imported, people who caught the infection abroad and have returned home. What is certain is that Venezuela remains acutely vulnerable if cases here do rise. After years of economic contraction, many hospitals in the country are in a state of near collapse, with shortages of medicines and the basic provisions of hygiene.
I'm concerned about all the Venezuela situation. Zulia is the hot spot right now, but if you check the data, all the border states, Bolívar, Apure, Zulia, and Táchira, have most of the cases, other than Nueva Esparta. But in real terms, you can figure out that the epidemic is going to behave in the same way as the other countries in Latin America.
What he means is that once the virus penetrates a country, a sharp rise in the numbers is almost inevitable. At the border with Colombia, the United Nations has set up a shelter processing Venezuelans waiting to cross and head home. Precautions are being stepped up. And in all frontier states, as well as the capital, Caracas, the government on Monday imposed what it says is a radical quarantine with severe restrictions on all travel. So far, Venezuela has escaped relatively lightly from this pandemic. It cannot be guaranteed that will continue. Stephen Gibbs, CGTN.